the fuel truck like came in the right paratroop door and hit the side of the door, and the whole plane shook.
Crew. Voices in the dark, altitude and attitude, laughter over scars. Death on call, we ride that line together. Stories from the sky, we drag them through the weather. Yeah. Death on call, we bleed in quiet confessions. AC hearts built from chaos and aggression.
Welcome to the Death on Call podcast. I'm your guest host for the day, Jon Shipley. Pelt had be out. He'll be back for our next episode. Today's episode, though, we get two outstanding individuals that have given me more crap than I care to admit to. Master Sergeant retired Eddie Robinson and Tech Sergeant Jimmy Christensen. We'll do our introductions, and then we'll get into the conversation. First, I'll start with Master Sergeant retired Eddie Robinson. Was an AC-130U and AC-130J evaluator sensor operator with over 4,200 hours total and over 2,700 hours combat. He deployed 15 times in support of various contingency operations. His kids think he's a boring, out-of-touch, old blue hair, yet he embodies the quiet professional's mantra on a daily basis, keeping his past badassery in the past. Until now, you're welcome. Gunner hugs for everyone. Now, as the host notes, those are some tall tales about quiet and professional.
Latter portions of my career, not so much the
the first part. Okay.
Yeah, it's when I learned how to grow up. Yeah.
Our next guest is Tech Sergeant Jimmy Christensen. Started his illustrious career as a 2 Whiskey 1 weapons troop on AC-130 Gunships in March of 2001. After 5 years and 7 deployments of watching the crews fly away and come back from combat, he cross-trained to aerial gunner. The next 15 years flew by as he was upgraded to instructor and evaluator while playing semi-professional gunner Blackjack with over 10 more deployments with more than $7,000 in winnings from the officer prize package. He finished his career coasting his last 2 years while manning the coveted have-ace job for the sauce, working grueling 4 to 5 hour days while training with Sister Service Special Forces. He finished with over 2,700 hours and 1,700 combat hours. Welcome to the show, Eddie and Jimmy.
Thank you.
So, based on those very impressive introductions, I'd like to start the show with, how did you guys actually become friends? Because this is a story that I need to hear, that I want to hear. And I hope everybody else does, but this one's for me. I need to know the story of how you guys actually became friends.
I'm going to be honest. I don't really remember. Jimmy might remember, but
I don't either.
I think the first time I ever met Jimmy, I think he was in the class ahead of me, I don't think he was in the same class as me going through the 19th. 07? July 07?
Well, I checked out in January of 07.
Okay, so then no, we didn't even cross there. So it had to have been first or second or third or fourth deployment. We were probably synced up on our mensees were probably synced on like the deployment cycles. So that's probably where we ran into each other, would be my guess.
Okay. It just for the listeners, as I knew Eddie from a job at our squadron, and Jimmy never came to the plans office. So like that, I was really surprised to find. I was like, holy shit, how are these guys actually friends? Because usually everyone who had a friend in the plans office wanted to come to the plans office.
Eddie wasn't. Yeah, well, I came to the plans office later when Eddie was in there, but
Okay,
He had gone up to the wing.
got it. And I didn't realize you guys had just checked just short of like a year before I got there, because I just figured, no, not a year. I got there in December 07. So yeah, it's like 6 months before me. And maybe Jimmy's was a whole year before me.
Yeah, I checked
Interesting.
in December of 07.
Okay. This episode of Death on Call is brought to you in part by Danger Close Apparel, founded by a fellow AFSOC aviator and former AC-130U gunship fire control officer. Danger Close creates high-quality gear that bridges the flying and special operations worlds. Hats, shirts, patches, and more that let you wear your story with pride. Whether you're repping the gunship heritage or just showing support for the community. Check them out at dangercloseapparel.com. Use promo code DEATHONCALL, one word, at checkout for 15% off your order. Danger Close Apparel, because some stories are worth wearing close to the fight. Thank you for supporting a veteran-owned business. So what drew you guys to Gunships then? Like, what was your pathway? How did you get here?
Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
well, I started out as weapons in tech school. I was originally slotted for B-52s, but I guess a bunch of kids got busted for drugs at Hurlburt, so they grabbed a bunch of us that hadn't started class yet and threw us into a special ops class. So that's how I got to Hurlburt.
So what was different was there a difference between the special ops weapons class and the regular weapons class?
Yeah, because it's aircraft specific
Okay.
at the tech school, so the B-52 class was a lot longer. The special ops class, because they didn't have a lot of training devices there, because of, I guess they just didn't have the equipment or the money to bring stuff from Hurlburt Field to was it Shepherd in Wichita Falls?
Mhm.
It was a really short, compacted class. Most of it was actually like these, like the minigun and 50 cal. And then they were like, "Oh, you'll learn your actual weapon systems when you get to Hurlburt. You'll either go to these or you'll go to Gunships." And when I got there, I went to Gunships and then started training then.
Interesting. So when you got to weapons, you you knew you were going Hurlburt, you knew you were coming to special ops, but you didn't actually know airframe at the time.
Right.
Interesting. What was that like? Like, just knowing, did you care?
Uh, I didn't care. It was a shorter class for me, so that was the only thing I cared about. I was going to be out of tech school faster. But yeah, I didn't care. I didn't even. I mean, I hadn't even heard of. I didn't even know what the hell a gunship was until I got
Okay.
to tech school. So
Okay. Eddie, you're a direct path.
Kind of. I went, so I joined the Air Force on September 7th of 01, delayed enlisted.
Really?
hmm And I just remember going to the MEPS, and they've got the big binder. I'm sure it's all electronic now, but they had a big binder at the time that was like, here's all the jobs in the Air Force that you could have. And I always knew I wanted to fly. My scores were high enough. And so I went through all the different one alpha jobs that were available. And I came across 1-Alpha-4 and was reading the description. It was pretty much between 1-Alpha-3, which was comm, 1-Alpha-4, which was the air battle at the time, was the air battle management systems. And then I don't remember what the other one was that I was looking at, but short of it is, I was like, hey, what's an AC-130 gunship? And the dude at the MEP station was like, yeah, it's like a flying tank. And I'll go, I want to do that. And at the time, the ADS-100 career field had just merged with 1-Alpha-4s, and so they weren't taking airmen. I don't think they took airmen until like, I think that was like your Brandon Boyds and Chris Gunters and like those. There was one other one, Tony North, I think,
Okay.
were the first ones. That was like 05, 06, I think, was the first airman that they allowed. And so anyways, I went to tech school and I got orders to go to E8CJ Stars. And so that's where my first duty station was at. And then asking the functional there, hey, how do I get to Gunships? I want to do that. And OIF had obviously kicked off by that point, and I've been doing some deployments and the functional. I had a chief that was pretty good, and he just told me, he's like, "Hey, here's the person's name down at AFSOC. Email them and tell them that you're interested. You want to volunteer." And I was like, "Okay." And we had some folks go down, and they were not very successful from the career field, so there was some apprehension, I think, on AFSOC's part, and I don't blame them. And then, yeah, I had gotten my first look, I think, was in September or October. I think it was
Mhm.
October because it was right around my anniversary year, and in '06. And then I think I was undetermined on if I was going to stay in at that time. I was kind of ready to get out. I wanted to come back to Alaska, and my wife was like, "No, we're not doing that." So I was like, "Okay." Recently married, and I was like, "All right, well, I'll make her happy." And then I was like, "Cool, well, we're gonna go here." Funny how things work out. Valentine's Day of '07, I get orders to Hurlburt, and so talked to the wife, and she was like, "Yeah, like let's do it." So that's how I ended up. July of '07, I reported to the 19th SOS, and then started my training there.
Cool. That was a short PCS for you from J Stars, like distance wise,
Yeah, 5 hours.
one of the closest. So when it comes to training on the gunship, since you both cross trained, what was kind of the biggest eye opening experience, or how you felt about it, going, holy crap, this is very different, or this is very familiar to me?
Well, I was already familiar with the weapon system, so cross
Mhm.
training a gunner was pretty easy. As a weapons troop, like we didn't have to know word by word the cycle of ops and
Mhm.
stuff like gunners had to. So that was a little different. Like actually learned more going through gunner school than what they teach me about the actual gun system, which is as far as like the physical guns, but some of the
Mhm.
stuff on the aircraft, I passed that information to like Al and Tony. Like they found
Okay.
some I taught them some stuff, so that was cool.
Yeah. Um, I don't want to say anything really surprised me. I coming from air crew going to air crew, I think the biggest difference was attention to detail, and um, I had some pretty good mentors in JSTAR. Spike Mountjoy was one of them,
Mhm.
who eventually went to H models. Him and I went back and forth because I was the class ahead of him in training on the U model side, and he went to H
Mhm.
models. But I think it was my second deployment. Cliff Lucas was a friend of mine at JSTARS, and he gave me my first check ride. That was like the really first eye opening experience. So from a young airman side of the house, expectation was already set high for knowledge and like being knowledgeable in a job. I think my first like eye popping experience showing up to Gunships was walking in to see Miss Kitty in the freaking library office, and her handing me like, "Here's your pubs." And I think at that time we were on change like 16 or 17 of the TO,
Mhm.
and all of our TOs in JSTARS were on CDs. Like we didn't have paper TOs. And so I can just remember just being pissed off, like going through every page and then like
Weird.
ripping the page, and then trying to find paper assholes to put on them so like you can't. So yeah, I think that was probably the eye opening experience. And then just getting into the training when I left J Stars, I had a chief tell me like, "Yeah, man, good luck. We'll see you back here in a couple months because you're not going to pass training." That was kind of the mindset. And like I said, we had a bunch of guys that had failed through. When I started my class, we had 6 classes of gunship sensor operators that had not passed. Mike Groschel was the last one to pass, and I think he was on his check ride or something like right around the same time I started. So his class was probably Jimmy's class or a class after Jimmy's when he started. But so yeah, I think that was really the biggest eye opening part of training for me was the amount of knowledge that needed to be known, the weaponeering aspect that needed to be known, how munitions, fragmentation patterns and what they did, and, different fusing options that are available on the weapons. I mean, that's a far reach from C2.
Mhm.
So calves to C2, like that's a big jump. And yeah, I think that was probably the uh, the biggest eye opener when I got to gunships.
Okay. For both of you, because now I've heard from previous interviews, what was your impression of like the intensity of training coming from even from a sensor to a sensor and a weapons troop to a gunner? Like, was there a perceived level of intensity or seriousness that went above and beyond what you had experienced previously?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I went from a platform that didn't have parachutes to a platform that had them. So like that
Uh-huh.
was a big thing for me. I was like, oh shit, I can get off. Like that's off a plane. Sorry, I can get off a plane. Uh, um, yeah, like everything from aircraft walk around, like needing to understand where all the components were on the external portion of the aircraft to all the internal components, and then becoming an expert on, that specific weapon system or sensor system. And yeah, like intensity is not even the right. I don't know what a stronger word for intensity is, but like it was ratcheted up. I mean, it was definitely like there was always a felt need of importance. Like I think the instructors did a really good job of, like we go in and watch the shoot videos or greatest hits or whatever you want to call them. And, one of the very first things is like, hey, you understand what your role is here. Do you think you can handle it? And here, I'm going to
Mhm.
show you some videos to put you in the right mindset. And then it was just like, yeah, dude. Like I already had 4 deployments at that point. I had listened to dudes die on the radio, so I was like, "Oh, I could shoot back." Like, yeah, bet. Like, let's go. We're gonna take care
Okay.
of it.
Yeah, it was different for cross training too, because weapons, they just give you all your books and your CDCs and everything, and you just have to complete that shit on your own schedule, your own time, and then going through like the schoolhouse and going out to the plane and be like, "Oh, that's on fire over there. What are you gonna do?" And put on your parachute. Where he just said we're gonna ditch the plane, and I was like, running all over the place, sweating your ass off, especially in the summers. Jesus,
Yeah. Middle of July, middle of August,
yeah.
inside the tube without any air conditioning on. No AC packs. Looking back on your time, how do you feel about that level of intensity? Like, was that something that was a stepping stone that made everything better? Or was there a better way to do it, in your opinion? Like, from the intensity, not necessarily what the content of the training was,
I
but
would say
the
it prepared
culture
you
of the
pretty
training.
well for what could happen. I would say it was worth it and justified, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, having been an instructor in the 19th,
Mhm.
uh, I think the charge of the instructors at the 19th at the time, and I think even still to this day, it's not to give you easy training. Like, there's only so much that we can do to induce stress and like stress that you would experience in a very dynamic situation on the ground downrange. And I think everybody tried to do, even though sometimes it was maybe a little unrealistic, you just tried to induce more and more stress to see, to push people to their limits, to see how they're going to react. And then, you can make your determination there as a fellow aircrew member of like, hey, do I think this guy or gal can go down range and perform tasks when it matters most? And that's, shooting in close proximity to the friendlies and saving dudes' lives on the ground. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't change a thing about it.
Okay. I think that's a really good point to put on the intensity, especially for like the listener. When we talk about training at home, a vast majority of our training is done with our imagination. We might be sitting at our station, we might actually be flying, but a very large percentage of our training is being told what you're looking at. It's not actually there. There's nothing to look at, there's nothing to discern. So, without that artificial stress put on people, it would be a really boring and a really laid back, boring video game, if you will, without that stress, without that ability to be able to say, hey, this isn't just a game. real lives on the line. And the first time you're going to see it, there's no training for it. There's no ability to say, well, we're going to put you into this situation and not have any consequences attached. No, the first time you're actually going to see it is with consequences attached. So I just wanted to, it's something that I've heard the recurring theme on the training wise, and I wanted to maybe pick apart at it a little bit more. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. So we talked about getting out of training, kind of what that was like. What was the first gunship deployment? Because you guys went on deployments prior. What was that first gunship deployment like?
Shit, mine was. I think they had already moved. Like I deployed early with gunships, and they were still in Kuwait.
Mm.
And my first gunship as an aircrew deployment was they were in Balad. So those white pods
Mm-hmm.
lined up with the pallets in between for when it rained and flooded. You know, you weren't walking around in puddles everywhere. And then the sweet ass patio on the front with the GBJ, the giant GBJ table, and
That's
the
probably
course,
where we met.
yeah, probably.
Trading
And then of
money
course
somewhere.
the dreaded goddamn fucking shower pods with the moldy ass curtains that every time somebody came in to brush your teeth or something, the curtain blew in and stuck to your leg, and you're in, 3 inches of water, and that moldy curtain stuck to your leg, and you're like, fuck. It's disgusting.
Or when the TCN came in to clean while you were taking a
Yeah.
shower.
And he's, mopping, but staring at you in the shower or staring at you drying off, and you're, what's up?
Yeah.
Eddie, what about you?
Yeah. How to summarize my first deployment. So I was on Jonas Friel's first AC trip when we were called Friel's Frat Boys. And I think I can summarize pretty much my entire gunship experience in 2 movies, which is, what the hell is that? Ryan Reynolds, Ballsack in college, Van Wilder,
Van Wilder, yep.
and like the movie Waiting. If you ever watched that, with
Uh-huh.
at Shenanigans with Shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think those pretty much summarize the deployment aspect of gunships pretty much on all my deployments, but that one was particularly fun. Yeah, we had a really good crew. Big Daddy was my FOCO. Friel was our pilot. I think Chesko was our nav. I had Dion was my other sensor. And there was some things. Dion had to leave that deployment, go home early. But yeah, overall, like that's when I got introduced to the gunner shenanigans in the back.
Yeah.
Gunner hugs, or everything's blacked out and you walk around a corner past the 40 and you're in the hallway and like somebody's hanging from the rafters, with nothing on. Or, you're sitting there, you're tracking something, performing a mission, and then you just get a tap on your shoulder and it's like junk in your face or whatever. So yeah, I mean, that's waiting all day long, bat wings and frickin' triceratops and all the rest of those. Yeah, brain, gum. But yeah, no, like it was I thought I don't know what I expected for the accommodations, but I thought the accommodations were actually pretty good. The only thing that sucked that I can remember from that trip was I think that was the trip that they had recently been busted with booze or something like that. So booze was no longer allowed. So a bunch of guys were pissed about that. And then I think that was the trip that that was the trip that Yoakum chucked the Xbox against the T barrier because he was pissed. We were all beating his ass in Halo. But yeah, man, like I love to play video games. I still play video games. I like to play poker, and I had a found love for GBJ. I got introduced to that, and I was just around a bunch of good dudes, and we had a great time, and didn't do a lot of shooting that trip. That was a ROE nightmare. Pretty tightened up at that point, and but yeah, I had fun, man. I had a pretty good time on all my deployments. I think.
I would agree. And it sounds like, because it's a similar story to the other ones that we've heard of some of the traditions that you pick up on the deployment, like persist, like to this day, that you're like, oh yeah, I can trace back the reason why I do this or that to that very first deployment, or why I enjoy this or why I hate this.
Yeah. Like I can't smell cocoa butter without thinking of Dion coming home from the gym after he took a shower or whatever, and standing there like with just his Ranger panties on, rubbing lotion on his skin, going, "Hey boy, why don't you get over here and get this back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, man, that's definitely not going to happen," you know. And then he just stands there, you know, just Xerxes, just rubbing frickin' lotion all over his skin. It's like, but yeah, every time, you know, I guess it's good or bad depending on your perspective. But every time I smell cocoa butter, I snap back to like, "Hey, why don't you get over here and put this on my back?" But
Awesome. Ick. Just ick. No, I'm trying to get that image out of my head, and it's
no, you
really
don't. You
challenging.
don't. You don't
Thanks.
want to,
Appreciate
dude.
it.
It's a great thing to have. Yeah.
So I got a question about gun or blackjack, because I have lost $1 or $2 in my day on there. I always just figured it was because the unwritten rule was officers don't learn the rules until you pay money in. Was that true for everybody or just officers?
No. I mean, there is no money like oh money. That is true.
That is correct. It smells different. It
But
feels different. It tastes different.
no, and I mean, you guys are learned individuals. Like, there's zero reason why you shouldn't be able to pick up on some pretty easy rules. You know what I mean? So I felt like you guys all got the same explanation that
There were a
everybody else
couple
got.
O's that were pretty cutthroat and pretty good
Yeah.
at it.
Now, the ones that had less favor maybe got less of the rules. That is probably true.
Mhm.
But, you know, because I can remember some times where, you know, not naming names, you know, be like, yeah, that, you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles, you know. Oh, my
Mhm.
bad. I guess I'm cashing out. Let me pull these chips in. But yeah, but he did it to everybody, so you can't say it was because of the O's.
No, he was an equal opportunity
Taker.
taker.
Yeah. We were downrange when Plucky took his all of Nims's money right before Christmas. Jimmy and I were downrange. We were a part of that debacle. Jimmy was part of the debacle. GBJ. Jimmy was part of the debacle where me and the Greek ended up in a wrestling tournament in the GBJ room.
Was that Camp Alpha
No,
when
that
we
was
played on
in
that ping pong table?
Kandahar. That was in Kandahar in the room that eventually became the briefing room, because that was your SCL trip, because the one Charlie chick, the one that you kept calling Cankles, was there. Yeah,
Sergeant Kinkles. I put a little
Sergeant
bit of
Cankles.
respect on it.
Yeah. So I don't remember who the mission commander was at the time, or not the mission commander, the CG SOAC commander, but they would come down to our area and they would play American Idol. And it was me, Jimmy, I think Plucky was in there. There was only a handful of us in there, like 5 or 6 of us maybe, playing GBJ. And we were being quiet. It's a long day, you know, we were just playing to play. And they start singing like fucking Man in the Mirror or something, some Michael Jackson song. And they're not being quiet about it. They're being loud. And so Jimmy's like, man, somebody needs to tell them to shut the fuck up. And I'm like, all right. And so, of course, you know, being the voice of the voiceless, not the Jimmy's voiceless, I just go, shut the fuck up. And silence. Like they mute the fucking TV. Nobody says nothing. And then you just hear the door open. And that lieutenant colonel sticks his head through. He's like, is there a problem? And I go, what's up, sir? He's, is there a problem? And I go, no, y'all stop singing, so we're good. Everything's fine. Jimmy's like, yeah. And Plucky goes, yeah, we like the silence. And then it was like, and just closed the door. Like that was it. Never heard another peep. And they ended up watching it somewhere else. I don't know where the hell they went, but Yeah, that was a trip that Plucky cashed out big, and a couple days later, Wes Golden comes in. He just plops his ass down. We had a great big huge pot. Nims was trying to win some money back, and Golden gets dealt blackjack, doesn't even negotiate with the pot,
Yeah.
flips it, takes his fucking 2-1. Nims had like, it was something stupid, like $400 fucking in there.
That was the Christmas Nims kids didn't get any presents.
Yeah, that was yeah, that's exactly right.
He lost his ass.
I walked away. I think when I left, because I stayed for that whole thing. I think, well, not the whole thing. I walked away at like, it was 1,700, I think. And I was like, nope. I was like, and he kept borrowing kept borrowing. And I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm catching out. I lost like $20. I was like, nah, dude, have my fucking money. I'm going to bed. I can't watch this. It was terrible. And
Shit
then,
gets crazy, man.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing Plucky and I was dealing and I could not hit anything less than 20 or 21. And Plucky was, I mean, it was just me and him. Everyone was done. And it was to the point was he just lost $100. He's like, all right, I just lost. I owe 100. My bet's 100. And then I'd hit 20 and he would hit 19 or something. He'd be like, all right, I owe 200. My bet's 200. And I took probably $600 off from him in probably 30 minutes. And then he was just like, all right, that's it.
Yep.
And I went and bought a new grill when I got home from that trip.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And you named it the Plucky Special.
Dude, I bought an Xbox. Dude, that's how I sustained my chew habit downrange.
Yep. I could, every trip, I was excited to deploy, not just to serve my country honorably, but I knew I was going to make an extra, $500 to $1,500 in, 60 to 90 days. Also, on top of that.
Yeah. I think I'm still racking my brain on when I met Jimmy. Were you there when I took Chief Celis in Balad?
I was there for one of his trips. It probably would have been his last one, but
yeah, he had just come back to the squadron. He was the squadron chief. He went down range as a line gunner. And we were sitting out in the front playing GBJ. And it was like, I feel like it was you, Thorne, Hanover.
It probably was.
Jay Smith, handful of other guys, and Chief. And Chief was beating our ass and talking shit while he was doing it. And I was getting pissed. And so I ended up with, I think him and I ended up being like the big stack. I had just won a pretty significant pot. I just remember I had pocket fours. And we're playing Texas Hold'em. And I get pocket fours. The flop comes like ace, king, 4. So now I have trips. And I think he had ace, king suited is what he had. So he had 2 pair. So I check. He bets big. I raise. He calls. Next card comes out. It's like an ace. Or no, it was another 4. So I had quad 4s. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, well, I don't give a fuck what you have. Like, it's over, right? And so I check. He bets big. I go, what do you have left? And I put them all in. Or maybe I waited to the river. I might have waited to the river. So he calls, goes all, whatever. Him and I end up being the only ones. And we wait until the end. We don't flip it. And so he ends up with a full house, aces over kings. Because I think the last card was a king, an ace. It doesn't matter. I think he had aces over kings is what he had. And so he's like, yeah, fucking read it and weep. Boom. Slaps it down. Full house. And he goes to rake. And I go, well, hang on. And he's like, what do you have? And I go, well, I just have 2 pairs. And he's like, what? And I go, yeah, 4s and 4s. And everybody's like, oh my God. Oh no. So I go, that's high score, right? Like I win. And he's like, fuck you, Robinson. I was all pissed off. And I was like, okay, cool. Hey, Chief, it's past your bedtime. Time for you to go to bed. And I just raked all the fucking shit. But yeah, lot of fun. A lot of stories could be told. A lot of gunship legacy stories could be told from the GBJ or poker table.
Just about
Mhm.
GBJ.
Yeah, holy shit.
I think that was my first experience deployed was Iraq, K-pods there and the front porch.
Yep. I was not a fucking, or I was a sore loser. I mean, if I was losing my ass, I
No,
would
you don't say.
That's a lie.
like I would rip the fucking deck. Be like, oh, fresh deck. Who's ready for a fresh deck? Because you know, like when you're in that rut, when there's so many people playing, like the good, when you're the dealer, if you had between like 5 and 7 players at the table, like you could hit a good pretty streak. If it was loaded with 10 people, you weren't going to be dealer very long. Somebody was going to hit, or the pot was going to be raped firsthand or something. So if you had that between 5 and 7 people, like you could go on a really good streak as the dealer. But yeah, when I wasn't the dealer and I was losing my ass, and I'd be fucking 15, 15, 15, like every time, like fresh deck.
Yeah, Plucky would do the same thing though. Plucky would get pissed because he'd get his ass kicked and he'd rip the deck too. I think I only did it once.
It's probably where I learned it from.
I was infamous for, I think I only did it actually one time where I flipped the table. That was in Kandahar. I was so fucking mad.
I never flipped it. I would I would bounce chips off the fucking table and hit people sometimes.
Yeah, it was a pretty small pot too. It wasn't like a big
Shrapnel.
pot. Yeah. 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 I think that's really where you figured out who guys were, was on that table. You know, it was a bonding moment for a lot of people, but it was not for the faint of heart. Like if you couldn't hold your own, don't go sit down there, you know, and I think, you know, that scared a lot of folks off, but
That, and like when we had Halo or Call of Duty linked up between all those rooms.
Madden, oh my God.
I won't play Madden. Fuck that shit.
You won't play Madden anymore? Why
No,
not?
those stupid little fucking computerized hands can never catch the motherfucking ball when it's going right to his ass. Interception. The guy's like fucking behind him. Like, what the fuck? I don't fucking play Madden to this fucking day. Fuck that stupid ass game.
We found Jimmy's PTSD.
Yeah. So I never went to the extreme of yoke 'em and fucking smash the entire system. I went through several controllers. Those are much
lot.
cheaper.
A lot of, well, they're not cheap anymore. They're like $60 a fucking controller.
Cheap. I
Right,
would
high
break probably
roller.
at least one
Man.
controller on every trip.
Who was he roomed with? Was it Dangerfield? Was it him and Dangerfield
I think
playing
it
in the
was.
room?
This episode of Death on Call is powered in part by ROE Graphics and Apparel. Rules of Engagement Graphics, run by Gunship guys. They crank out everything from killer vehicle decals and perforated window wraps to custom signs, shirts, and banners for everything from school fundraisers to patriotic military themed designs that just scream pride and durability. They also have plenty of gunship artwork from H models to J models and everything in between. Perfect for repping that Spectre, spooky Ghost Rider heritage on the road, at home, or on the tailgate. Built tough in Florida for the warriors who live it. Gear up at roe-graphics.com. Use promo code DOC15. That's one word, DOC15 at checkout for 15% off your order. ROE Graphics, because your setup deserves rules of engagement that demand attention and respect. Big thanks to another Gunship connected crew supporting the fight. Appreciate you all for tuning in and supporting these brands. Understood. So I hear the Gunner Blackjack is a big tradition and something that you guys carry with you today. But is there a crew tradition from a deployment that sticks with you even more than that, or that you cherish more than playing cards? And if so, what is it?
I don't know about crew traditions. Like I know Pernia, the engineer, like his big thing was making taking a bunch of pictures from the trip and making a video at the end for everybody and burning a disc, for all the crew members. So just making the trip memorable for everybody.
Mhm.
One thing that I did on later deployments, besides the first couple, all the rest of them, is I got those little army men with the parachutes, and sometimes over certain areas. I don't know if I should say certain areas, but either way, I'd throw a couple out the jettison port.
20
Maybe
years
write
later,
some
I mean, you heard
messages
the
on.
story on the shit bag going out all over
Have
the.
so that's the Iraq version.
Huh.
Okay. I have an updated lessons learned
Oh, fantastic.
Afghanistan version.
Okay, let's
We
hear
can
it.
talk about that later.
Eddie, anything?
Like traditions that I carry now.
Maybe you carry them, or maybe it's something you just remember, you look back on that you think about and say, hey, you know what, that was really cool. Maybe I didn't appreciate it at the time, or maybe I did.
I mean, I was the hype guy on one trip. I think it was the trip Jimmy was the SEL, which, yeah,
That's saying something.
that was something.
Explain that one for the non-military people. SEL.
I mean, Jimmy in any position of leadership is like, you're really
Fun,
scraping the bottom of the barrel. So it's
awesome.
you're like, I wonder which version of an EAO complaint is going to come in today,
Huh?
But
Zero sexual harassment during my
I don't.
career. Just saying.
Yeah, God. Yeah, good for you, man. You beat the odds, because there's some shit I've heard you say where I was just like, holy God, I don't know how you don't have any kind of something.
I can say the same for you.
You're 1,000% correct. 1,000%. So anyways, on that trip, trying to remember who the AC was. I think it was Chris Reeves on his first. It was either him or Silva. I don't remember what. It might have been Silva. And we had done this thing where, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Silva, because Chris Lesmus was my FOCO. Man, I got his face and I can't think of his name right now. Our nav. Clay Matthews was our nav, and Jeremy Hickey was the other sensor operator. And Doug Luster, I think, was our load. And anyways, we're sitting in the AFAC one day in Kandahar, and I didn't know that Clay Matthews was real big into wrestling, like really big into wrestling.
What kind of wrestling?
Like
Like
WWE
real wrestling or WWE?
whatever it's called now. Yeah, WWF, WWE, whatever.
I will always
Stone
call
Cold,
it
The Rock,
WWF
all
too.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that hillbilly shit. But anyways, didn't realize he was that big into it. And so it was one of the things that was on the AFN at the time, and it was WWE. Well, Doug had commandeered the remote control, and he's trying to watch it, and he tunes it up, and Doug just kept turning the TV off. And after about 4 times, he lost his shit about it. Clay did. It was like, God damn, you fucking assholes, and Clay never swears, which was hilarious. Well, then that turned into the last portion of our call sign was 2-6. I would say 2-6, boots to asses, team bring it. And then I'd go, woo, and yell it, right? Well, I remember if Slife was visiting, or I don't remember who the mission commander was at the time. It might have been a certain someone on his first trip, and then he tried to lawyer, because that was around the same time the H models had it wasn't the wedding shoot, but it was another one similar to that. So anyways, dude shows up and he's like, hey, I really don't like that you do that. And nobody could fucking stand the guy. So I was like, noted. And so every time that I went in, I would do it before we stepped. And then every time we came back, I would do it again to let everyone, announce that we were back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't remember if it was Reeves or Silva. It was one of them, but they got talked to every time. They're like, hey man, you got to talk to Sergeant Robinson. Like there's no reason for all that. And so they'd come talk to me and they'd be like, yeah, they told me to tell you to stop doing that, but it's okay. Keep doing it. And I'm like, all right, good. They're like, it makes people happy. It's like, what is it? What is the skate movie with Will Ferrell? It's provocative.
Mm-hmm.
People like it.
Blades
So,
is a
Blades of Glory. Yeah.
yeah, Blades of Glory.
Yeah.
I think that's a recurring theme as well, that the more someone fights back on something, the more that thing is the thing you do.
Yeah.
Never show weakness.
Right.
Never show weakness. As soon as you do, like, it's exploited, like, period.
When I got assigned to the plans office, that was one of the very first lessons you all taught me when I got there. Let's never show weakness.
Never show weakness. Never
No,
be a
because
because you-
stuck-up officer.
Who was in there
either.
when you got in there? It was me
It was
and
you,
Jeremy Burke.
Jeremy Burke, and I think it was Nick Regini.
Yeah, dude. Like, those are three of the probably worst people that you could let them know anything about you, because we will say something. And Jeremy, being the officer, was probably the worst out of all of us.
He was.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
It was awesome to have him as a boss, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I learned so much, and it's those hard-earned lessons. I think that might be one of the key takeaways, is the hard-earned lessons are the ones that stick around the most.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Never, ever challenge Jeremy Burke to a drinking contest.
No.
Ever.
Or
Ever.
something that's hot.
Or
He's a
or
big
that.
dude.
That dude will, like, eat mace without even blinking.
Jesus.
Dude, what was the name of there was a dish at Thai Chef or whatever, right there off of Hollywood Boulevard.
Can't think of the name of it. I remember going there a lot with him.
We were in Wing Plans at the time, because I followed him up to Wing Plans, and the Brits would come in, or whoever, it didn't matter, and we'd go there and eat. And there was a dish really good that they would come out and serve, and it would be on a hot plate. And as soon as they dumped whatever food was on this hot plate, it was kick up a big vat of steam, and it would smoke the place out. Well, the Brits were talking shit to Jeremy about how he doesn't know what hot food is, and they eat curry and all this other shit. So he was like, okay. So we go to the Thai place, and it was like me, Burke, Chris Daly, Mikey McGuff, and like a couple other guys. And we all ordered the same thing. And I think they had like 5 or 6 of those plates, and we had 5 or 6 guys order it. Well, the Brits had no idea. We were used to it because we'd go like at least once a week. Well, she brings it out. She dumps them all at the same time. I mean, it was like basic training, gas, 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 like don your mask. And of course, Jeremy gets it like nuclear hot. And to the point where like eyes are watering, everybody's coughing. There was like a handful of people in there. They were like, check, it's time to go. But yeah, that's him. Like, don't challenge him, because you will lose.
Speaking of hot sauce and things that are hot, I have a viewer question that came in. Our good friend Ben wants me to ask you, Eddie, about hot sauce and a co-pilot.
God.
Were you there for that one, Jimmy?
I was not there for it, but word spread quickly.
So you guys can all attest to this, that idle hands cause problems. And I think at this point, we were in Boredom. We had just moved into the newer dorms. I think it was one of my last trips, actually, in Gunships. And one of the things that we would always do is, like, the older crew members, is we would always mess with the younger guys, and it didn't matter who it was, like, they were going to get messed with. And so we were about halfway through the trip. I had my wife used to always send me like the shin cups, the noodle cup of noodles, or like the Instamac, because I always had real bad food aversion going through to the DFACs, and like I'd have like a lot of stomach issues, so I would get stuff sent from home. And so one day I had made, I think it was mac and cheese, and I dumped some chili powder in there, and I think it was habanero hot sauce, like a hotter habanero hot sauce. And I mix it up and I eat it, everything's good. I got to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and I had forgot that I had mixed stuff with my hand. And so I end up getting some hot sauce down there. And I was like, holy fuck, like that hurts. And I don't remember what we were playing. We were playing something in there, something on the Xbox. Dudes were taking turns or whatever. And so we're all sitting there. We're like, all right, well, what are we going to do? Well, of course, like everybody starts talking shit. The story devolves, to, I was like, man, like this really hurts. Like I'm complaining about it at this point. And I was like, can you imagine like if you had got it in your, like in the pee hole, and everybody's like, oh man, that would really hurt. Oh, whatever. And I was like, I bet we could get somebody to do it. I bet we could get somebody to try it out. And everybody's like, no, no, no. And as soon as you say that around those dudes downrange, it's like, I got 20 on it. I got 40 on it. I got whatever. A pot comes together. And then it's like, you know, the dude that you basically Manchester who sat there was like, oh, it wouldn't be that bad. You know, all right, hey, how much? What's your price? And as soon as you get someone like that, it's like game on. And the younger dudes don't get it. So they're trying to fit in. They're trying to be like, you know, good or whatever, good with the crew. And we're like, all right, we're going to fuck you up. You're going to get initiated now. Right. So anyways, we determine the hot sauce. We get the pot up to $200 and he starts hemming and hawing and everything. And I go, or I think we got it up to like 160. I had already put 20 in. We had a bunch of other guys put 10s and 20s in. And so he's like, oh, you know, it's not enough. And I go, what's your cost? And I had just won like GVJ like the night before. So I had pocket money to burn. It wasn't my money. It was probably some officer's. It might've been his. I don't know.
Paid himself.
And yeah, so I was like, 200, how's 200 sound? And he goes, all right, I'll do it for 200. And I go, I got $40 more right here. Boom, put it in. Like, there you go. There's $200. So then it was, you know, how am I going to get rid of it? And enlisted, you know, there was a saying back in like the 1870s. It was in a book, somebody's book, famous. It was basically like, never trust the enlisted man. They're a conniving creature and, you know, they'll lie and deceive you and whatever. It's legit. Like, it holds true today. It's not a lie. And so I told him, I was like, hey man, if you're really that concerned about it, just drink a bunch of water, knowing damn right well that there's going to be some backflow, and maybe not all of it, but some of it's going to get sucked back up into his urethra. And so we had those great big ass waters, you know, so he downs like 2 of them. I was like, yeah, dude, just wait till you got a piss, man. Don't worry about it. We'll go in there. And then it turned into, well, somebody's got to watch him do it. And I was like, well, I got $60 in on it, man. Let's go. Like, I'll go watch it. I don't care.
Pecker checker.
And yeah, dude, like I had watched people pee before. Like, it ain't a big deal, dude. It's all the same, just a different size. And so yeah, so he goes in, he dips a glob out of the hot sauce bottle. And I'm like, all right, man, like, let's go. And he freaking puts it right in there. And he's like, is that enough? And I go, oh, you probably put a little more. And so he gets another glob, puts some more in there. And he's like, well, that's not so bad. And I go, yeah, dude. So you got a piss? He's like, yeah. And I go, yeah, go ahead and knock it out. That dude pisses. And by the time he's done pissing, he's like, oh my God, that's really hot. And then it like works, you know, up into his bladder. And he's like, oh my God, that hurts really bad. And he's like, for the next 45 minutes, he's wallowing in pain and we are dying. We are laughing. And I think somebody ran to the chow hall and got him some milk. He ended up standing in the stall, like putting it in milk, dude. It was pure comedy. But so anyways, we get done with it and everything. Few hours pass and the flight doc comes and sees me. Or I get called in. I think who the hell was the was the mission commander. He calls me in and he's like, hey, what the fuck is this shit about putting hot sauce in dicks? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. I didn't do it. He's like, well, somebody fucking talked him into it. And I was like, I know what you're talking about, sir. You're going to have to ask him. And he's like, God damn it, Eddie. Like, we can't be fucking doing this shit. We're going to cause people to, you know, lose feeling, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I mean, hey, talk to him. Like, he's the one that took the bet. Like, I don't know why you're talking to me. I just helped arrange it. I just helped a monetary transaction. That's all I did. And so the flight doc gets involved and they're like, there was a male. He was like, you did what? And so they tell him, and he's like, do you understand? Like, you could have cauterized your urethra closed if you had done it, or if you had like a reaction or whatever. And he's like, well, I didn't really think about that. So then he's kind of freaking out and he's like, well, what do you do? Like, what do I do? I was like, well, it's been a while, right? Go clean the pipes. See if it still works. If it still works, like, you're probably good. Get rid of the rest of it. He's like, okay. So he did. Comes back. He's like, yeah, man, everything's good. Like, we're good to go. And I go, oh, and you're $200 richer. You're welcome. Like, let's press. So, but yeah, that's the hot sauce story.
Awesome.
Yeah, when you're bored, the people will do some crazy shit for money. I mean, I don't have anything like hot sauce down a pee hole, but who's the old censor? I can't remember who it was, but he ate a 3-pound can of fucking ravioli from the chow hall.
Well, that was Pat Van Wormer.
Yeah, Pat.
Yeah.
He's like, I love ravioli. And he had to eat the 3-pound can like within 5 minutes. And
Wow.
that some bitch finished it.
Yeah.
He's
What
like,
you guys
he's
don't
just sitting
know,
there and he's
he
like, I
set
love
you up.
ravioli.
Dude, he set you guys up. He knew, like, he eats it at home. Like, so for him, that was nothing. He was like, no, yeah, I'll do that. Easiest money I ever made, he said. I'm like, they got you to do what?
We had a co-pilot too in Afghanistan try to finish off a 5-pound can of chocolate pudding that we had acquired. He got about 3/4 of the way through it, and then he started throwing up. And I don't know if that was natto then also, but they were like, "Yeah, we got to put a stop to this."
Yeah. I don't remember. We were in Kandahar. The Greek had just rotated in for like one of his 30-day trips. And somebody had sent like a 1 or 2 pound fudge bar. And I took that bet. I was like, oh yeah, I think I can eat it. Dude, that was super thick. I got about 3/4 of the way done. I had to eat it in like, it was like 10 or 20 minutes, something like that. I don't remember what the dollar amount was, but it was enough for me to feel enticed. And dude, I ended up puking so hard from that because we didn't have a lot of sugar over there. So I told everyone, like, I went outside and I threw up. I don't remember who it was, but I think the gag is still going to this day because they brought it up not that long ago, like around the same time I retired. But I had told everyone that I was feeling really lightheaded and I had to go to the flight doc and they gave me an insulin shot. Because I had ingested so much sugar and it caused me to be sick. And then I just left it at that. Like all I did was I went outside and puked. I came back after a while and they were like, where'd you go? And I was like, oh, I had to go to the flight doc and take an insulin shot. Like I was all fucked up. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah. And it stayed for a long time.
Huh.
There was a gunner too, tall, goofy kid, Joe. I can't remember his last name. The one that almost blew his face off with his grill. He came in with
McNabb?
no, not McMath. That's it, McMath.
Yeah.
He ate, the big Otis Spunkmeyer.
That was on my first trip.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he ate like 13 or 14 of those on one flight. And then when they landed, he was having severe stomach pains.
Yeah.
And they
true
ended
story.
up flying him to Germany or some shit. And he had
No.
his appendix
No.
removed. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. While he was on the flight, or?
Yeah. So that was with Bish and Eric Owen and Chris Frazier was the gun deck with Joe. And Joe, I think it was Joe's first or second trip. It was my first trip. That was my gun deck on the crew. And all I was told during the flight was, we're going to get Joe to do the Spunkmeyer challenge. We're like, okay, cool. Well, somebody was taking the banana nut muffins and adding like dripping ball sacks on it, rubbing their balls on it.
Jesus.
And feeding it to him. And so he lands, he has a bunch of stomach issues, and then come to find out his appendix ruptured or was about to rupture. And so they did a appendectomy in Balad. And I don't remember who it was. It might have been Friel was there with him, like when they were putting him under. And he looks at him and he goes, am I going to get a Purple Heart for this? And there's like, no, dude. No, you're not getting a Purple Heart for this. And then he was just like, out. But yeah, no, that's a true story.
Wow. Food stories are ubiquitous. How much can you eat?
Yeah.
How fast can you eat it?
And how fast
Yep.
can you eat it?
Yep.
And how much money do you want to put on it?
Yeah. How much is it worth?
Food or tobacco or liquor when you went back through like Qatar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the shenanigans of being deployed, and those are all idle hands and coping mechanisms for the seriousness of what we do or did in this case. What was one flight that changed how you looked at your job? Like where you were like, wow, I am different coming back from this than I was prior to this.
Yeah, I would say mine's a two-part answer. So my first deployment, we didn't really shoot a lot. And I think a lot of guys, especially if you're gung ho or kind of bloodthirsty, you kind of think, oh, you're on a gunship and, our job is to go out and wreck shop. And so my first trip, the only, I don't want to call it combat, but like the only negative that we saw was we were escorting a Navy SEAL group on the western side of Baghdad, and they ended up hitting a VBIED, or is a triggered blast. And pretty quick, I found the dudes that were doing this. They were all high fiving each other, and they had, like, you could see them putting the device away and everything else. I mean, we had them dead to rights.
Mm-hmm.
And but they were in a striker, no real damage, like maybe a little shook up in the vehicle. It wasn't like a super substantial blast, but enough to like show up. And they ended up going in, called troops in contact. They do their mission, and we're like, hey, we still got these guys. And rules being the ROE being what they were at the time, like you couldn't, like you just weren't allowed to engage in urban areas. And so we end up not engaging. We end up putting down diversionary fires, or like in an adjacent field. And I can just remember coming back from that being so pissed that, like, I had gone 45 days at that point, or 50 days at that point, no real, quote unquote action. And then you see this, and then you can't do anything about it. So I was like really pissed. Fast forward, second trip, we're doing a boat assault force on the north side of Baghdad. Ranger Regiment was coming down, and they were hitting the north side of the river. And as they came in, they started taking accurate heavy machine gun fire and RPG fire from the south. And so we ended up shooting back on that one. And I think in that engagement, it was a series of like 3 engagements, but it's the one that if you ever go through FOCO or sensor training, the proximity shot video of like the dudes huddled up and you see the fragmentation pattern,
Mm-hmm.
that was that shoot. That was
Okay.
my shot. And there's another video of like guys running down a road parallel to each other. One's on a fence and the other one's like running down a road. And then I laid the round in between the two, and you see the frag pattern come down, and it does its work. So a 15-6 was opened up on that shoot, and I had to go down to Baghdad with the tapes, talk to the JAGs, talk to the ground crew. And I think that's when like the levity of the situation kind of was like, okay, hey, if we have to. And Megan Ripple was my AC on that trip, and she was always very good at relaying things in a manner that are just like bigger picture, I felt. And like the thing that she would always say is, if we have to shoot, bad things are probably happening to dudes on the ground, or bad things are happening, period. It's a bad day. And that situation, like watching dudes get loaded up into the back of a Hilux, and, second guessing, like, because like the initial reports is like social media had kind of first come out, and there
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of different reports on like, oh, they're reporting this happened, and, this is who was killed, and blah, blah, blah. And then you start going through and you kind of start watching it, and you're like, all right, man, like this is not a fucking game anymore. This is real life. Shit's going to happen. And I think from that point forward, I didn't relish when we had to perform our mission and do our job, but it was always like, I kind of always reverted back to that instance of like, I got tunnel vision really bad on when I shot. I didn't really hear everything that was going on around me. Jason Caplad
Mm-hmm.
was my other sensor. And he was like, he grabbed me at one point, was like, hey dude, like work your offset, do this and do this. And so he was, really good, being a good backup. But yeah, I think that's probably the situation I go back to where it's like, okay, like all the training made sense. A lot of the reactionary stuff of, we work a lot with offset, or we work a lot with moving target, or we work a lot with, fusing and what it looks like in the frag patterns and everything. And that all culminated in that um, event. And then from there forward, it was like everything was always in the forefront of my mind. I felt like I slowed down. I thought through things a little bit better. And yeah, that's my answer. That's a long winded answer, but you're up.
Oh, geez. I'd probably say a couple of different ones. One of them was like some good guys got hit in Baghdad. One of them had a pretty bad headshot, and we didn't see like what had happened. They just called us over to them, and we ended up like using the cameras and like giving them a path out of town back to base. And they reported back like that guy ended up living because they were able to get out so fast. So not just the offensive side of our capabilities, but the sensors and getting them a path out of town. Another one was Afghanistan. It was some stronghold that they had. The Taliban had some village, and the plan was um, Apaches were gonna fly low, like right over the town, and it was us, and of course in the stack like F-16s and drones and whatever. They were gonna mark all the poos, the point of origins, and then it was gonna be. I think we had first dibs because we were the lowest. But yeah, Apaches flew through there, and we, I think they counted like 26 point of origins that us marked, F-16s marked, and the what was it, M12 or something?
MC.
Yeah, that they all marked, and we were like, all right, well, we'll take these first. And we started just I think we ended up Winchestering, but we were in the back. I was the lead gun. I think Pickle was with me. We were trying to do bag changes as quick as possible, and like we just shot everything fast as shit and laying waste to people in tree lines. And but that was before Obama changed the rules where we couldn't shoot buildings, and we were fucking leveling buildings. And I mean, I had a war chubby in the back, like actually got to shoot, no shit, full throttle. So
Mhm.
that was fun. Yeah. And then the last one was I don't know what policy is on bestiality, but we were just loitering around. We had our set of compounds that we were keeping eyes on this one mission while I think the guys were walking in. And this little short dude had a fucking donkey tied up in his backyard. And this guy would like pull his robe up, start fucking this donkey, right? And the donkey would like get loose and like move away a couple feet. And the guy would get pissed off and walk around the front, and he'd be like talking to the donkey, like yelling at it and shit, right? And then he would go back around and go back to town. He did that probably 3 or 4 times. And then something happened. We had to take the cameras off it, but that was pretty. Holy shit, that really happened.
Oh, that was your epiphany on that? Like, oh, it's a
Yeah.
real thing?
This is a real thing?
Yeah, because you hear stories about it, but until you see it, it's pretty fucking nasty.
Well, thanks for sharing your stories, even nasty fucking stories about donkeys.
What the
But
fuck?
Yeah, I'm giving
seriously,
you the
thanks.
full scope of war. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Uh-huh. I have one for Jimmy from Nick Regini. So here you go. I have to ask you about how many more 25 millimeter puzzle pieces you've destroyed. I'm not even sure what that story is from.
It wasn't me.
Oh, it wasn't
Was
you.
No, it wasn't me. That was man, who was that? I can't remember who it was. He left the puzzle seal in, and when he went to go put the gun on the line up front, and of course we shot. After we were done and everything, they were like, "Okay, let's pressurize." And they were like, "We can't. We don't have a puzzle piece." The gunner came back, and of course I told the pilot. And then so they're like, "Hey, look at the." I think they found a piece of it, right? Because it's 3 pieces. I think they found a piece of it inside, and then the sensor went up and looked at the gun from the outside, and he could see like the other 2 pieces wrapped around one of the barrels, like just flapping in the wind. And the pilot's like, "Oh shit, do we need to go land?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, it's pretty. If it hasn't fallen off by now, I think we're good to continue. We just can't use the 25. So yeah, we ended up flying the rest of the way and landing, and it was still there when we landed. But it wasn't me.
It
Wasn't me.
wasn't you. Got it. But you were on the crew.
I was
Got
on
it.
the crew, yes.
So what was the outcome from that? What was the penalty? Because there's
Man,
always a crew penalty, whether or not
I
there's an
think he
air like
had
a
to
regulatory penalty, there is a crew penalty.
carry something around with him for, maybe it was like wear a sign or something that said, "I will not forget the puzzle seal," or something, and he had to wear it, like, to the chow hall, he had to wear it to the bathroom, like, he had to wear it everywhere, I think for at least a week, but yeah.
And for listeners who don't know gunship culture or military culture and that aspect of some of these things, like a gun seal, are standard operating. Like this is what you train to. It's not an exception to the rule. It is the rule. And when you forget those things, the lessons to make you remember them are generally embarrassing, embarrassingly painful. So wearing a sign around your neck going, "I will not forget the puzzle pieces," is the
Do we
memory jogger.
Yeah,
Please don't forget this again because the next time it'll even be worse. So,
I forget who it was too, but somebody forgot their 9 mil because Afghanistan, you carry your 9 mil everywhere.
mhm.
Somebody forgot their 9 mil in the bathroom, so they were given a wooden gun, and they had to wear it in their holster and walk around
And a
with
sergeant
that
major
for a
jacked
week
their
or 2.
ass up at the chow hall too, and they were like, "What the hell are you walking around with this for?" Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. We had a kid on on the trip that I went as SEL who had kept forgetting his iPad, and so they got a big fucking square rock, painted the iPad stuff on it, and he had to carry around the rock, put it in his backpack, and carry it out and everything else. And somebody got a hold of it. I don't remember who it was. It might have been the Siege of SOAC A chief. It was like, "That's hazing. You can't do that." And we're like, "I bet he doesn't forget his fucking iPad anymore, chief. Like, mind your business." So,
Mhm.
yeah, me and Country got talked to about that one.
Boy, I think we're gonna have him on later, so maybe I'll have to
Shit.
talk with him about it.
Yeah.
Um, we've talked a lot about lessons learned. We talked a lot about training and shenanigans to break the tension, break the stress, or fill up boredom. But what's one of the biggest lessons that gunships taught you that about like teamwork or about life that you bring with you today?
Yeah, I mean, you can't always do shit on your own. You need a team to complete the task or complete the mission, and whether that's like ground troops, like a lot of times in their pre-mission, like we were a no-go, gunships were a no-go for them on their mission. Sometimes not as often as we probably liked, because we want to shoot, but we were overhead and it was pretty boring, but good thing for them, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, just teamwork and some of the shit that popped up on missions where like we had a team, I think this was after Obama changed the rules, right? And we couldn't shoot buildings in Afghanistan. And we had a team that was assaulting a building and a couple of them got hit and they were bleeding pretty bad, but they had cover, but there was no way to get to them to get them out, right? So what we did was laid down like a wall of fire between them and the building, as close as the building I think that as we could get, so that they weren't shooting out and they were able to go up, grab those guys, and then bring them back where then they could get them on the helo and evac them, and they ended up living.
Eddie?
Mm. Yeah. What's one of the things that Gunship has taught me that I've taken with me? That's the question. I think hard work and dedication take you a long way, but your attitude's going to take you a lot further. Um, Gunships, I don't care what crew position you were in. I feel like it was always a mental game more than it was physical or, anything else. So if you told yourself you couldn't do something, then you weren't going to accomplish it. And I think you apply that to pretty much everything that you do in life, right? Um, you know, whether it's if you're going to take risk or if you're going to challenge yourself and try and get a degree or push yourself to get a different job or, you know, whatever. You know, there's only so many things that you can control. Attitude is one of them. And if you have a good attitude, then more often than not, like the rest of the things are going to kind of fall into place. But yeah, I would say those are probably some of the things that I've taken with me. And then, I mean, the other thing too is I think anybody you probably talk to will say, well, Eddie was an asshole because that dude could quote regulations to you, page number, paragraph. And I know it pissed a lot of people off. And, you know, I wish I could change that, but I can't. So it's
No, he
who I
doesn't.
am. And honestly, like that was self-preservation more than it was anything. Because so like I said, I had some like Spike Mountjoy. I'm downrange. I think it was my second or third trip in J Stars. He starts quizzing me and I start spitting out the answer. And he's like, cool, what page number and paragraph is that? I'm like, fuck Spike, I don't know. I just gave you the answer like literally out of the text. And he goes, no, wrong answer. If you can't give me page number and paragraph, it's fucking wrong. I'm like, okay. And so then I just started, that's how I started learning.
Mm-hmm.
Carry it forward now, it's gotten me into some trouble because I'm in Big Blue Air Force, not in AFSOC Air Force. And people don't like it when you read their regulations and then you quote them to them. And they really like it when they say, well, that's for our interpretation, not for anyone else's. And you quickly point out that every single AFI, AFMAN, DAFMAN, DAFPD, whatever, you know, adherence to this publication is mandatory for any, you know, for anything that's in this text that applies to, you know, whoever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, well, I mean, I'm this or I'm that, and I have to abide by these guidelines. So it is my guidance. It's not just your guidance. So why are you breaking your own guidance and yet asking me to follow it? And they fucking love that. They really, that's probably like one of the things that they love the most about me is,
Of course.
yeah,
They probably send you like cakes and
flowers.
you know,
Yeah.
flowers and stuff all the time for that.
All the time. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know that I necessarily learned that from Gunships, but I think Gunships brought that out in me a lot more because of the amount of information that if, especially going through training, if you could quote, man, I can remember fucking Mike Arrington, dude. Love that guy to death. He would come in and quiz us every day. He would come in and quiz us. And me being the smart ass I am, I started answering page number and paragraph when I started getting comfortable enough. So one day, Mike comes in, he starts asking questions, and I'm killing it. Tracy was in the room, Deuce was in the room, Spike was in the room, John Newkirk was in the room. There's a couple other people, because we were H and U model all in the same room at the time. And I'm like, oh, it's this, boom, boom, boom. 11 to AC 130, ball 3, paragraph, you know, chapter 10, chapter, you know, whatever, paragraph this. And he's like, all right, smart ass. And he's like, I don't remember what it is. It's like, what are the 9 indicators on an LRU-1 fail that will populate in your turret? And I only knew of 4. And it was like 7 or 9. I don't remember which one it was. I spent 3 fucking days going through U model publications. I went and talked to Miss Kitty. I got every fucking change to the -3 and the -1 to see if I missed it. And it was like old knowledge. I went through H model pubs. I went through positionals. I went fucking everything. And after 3 days, because I did not want to admit defeat,
Mm-hmm.
after 3 days, I walked up to him and I was like, all right, man, you win. Like, I don't know where it's at. This fucking guy opens up his desk drawer, pulls out the test manual from when he did the initial test on the Q26, was like, oh yeah, they're right here. And I was so pissed. I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to know that? And he's like, oh, well, you were quoting me page number and paragraph. I figured you knew everything. And I was like, okay. So he's the only one that didn't get page number and paragraph after that.
Uh-huh.
But everyone else got page number and paragraph. And it was preservation. It was like, if I ask this dude questions and he's quoting me page number and paragraph, He's in his shit. Therefore, I'm not going to ask him questions.
Mhm.
And that was it. That was the trick. Like, that is the trick that I have with. Don't ask me questions.
I think that's really, I like that illustration because I think it's also something we find that I don't find in the civilian world or in any of the other guys I went to nav school with when you start talking. That I think that's one of the things that makes Gunships guys and gals so successful in the job and in regular life. The idea that you've got to know the rules so well to know exactly what fine line you can walk. Because the more gray there is, the more, well, shit, maybe I don't want to do that. But if you know where that hard line answer is, I can do this, I can't do that. Or, hey, I know the reg well enough that this is gray area. We can make a judgment call here and still be okay. Kind of like Jimmy and the 25 puzzle pieces. There's probably nothing in the manual that says, well, if the puzzle pieces all get mangled up in the 25, do this. It turns into a judgment call of, is it in a safe condition for us to continue this flight? So I think that knowing the regs down to that page and paragraph, I think that's a recurring theme that keeps coming up. So thanks,
I don't
both of
know
you
if
on
he
that.
busted ass or if a
Oh,
car
it wasn't me.
The dirt bike going by.
I'd own it if it was me.
Yeah.
Cool. So I have a few other story questions, but do you guys have any stories you want to tell? You're like, you know what? After all this conversation, I want to tell this story.
Did you guys know Bates? Darren Bates?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of quiet, kind of crazy, had an obsession with knives and shit. People were like,
Yeah.
a kid's sketch. Great dude, super nice, a little sketchy. So he was on my crew in Afghanistan, and we were plussing up the fuel before takeoff. So everyone's just getting to their seats. I was standing in the, I think Kai's was the AC. I was standing in the right parachute door, and the fuel truck was backing up to the plane. And I don't know if I hit my comm button or not. Like, everyone was on comms and everything. I don't know if I hit my comm button or not, but I started yelling, "No, wait, stop, 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 stop." And then the fuel truck, the guy didn't know how to drive stick or something, so he thought he put it in park, but it was in neutral, and the fucking truck rolled, and the back of the fuel truck, like, came in the right parachute door and hit the side of the door, and the whole plane shook, and then right there, we were done, of course. But later, everyone had thought that Bates had flipped his fucking shit and was, like, back there, pulled his gun or a knife or something on me, and I was, like, yelling for my life and shit.
It's like the desk pop story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
his reputation preceded him, and your comments were like, "Oh shit, he snapped. He's gone
Yep.
after Jimmy
He's
in the
killing
back."
Jimmy in the back. God damn.
I think the only, just kind of circle back and provide a little more context to first deployment stories.
Yeah.
So we had, it was me, Doug Holland, and Josh Thorne. It was all of our first trips on Friel's Frat Boy trip. And I cannot remember for the life of me. I had his face and I cannot think of his name, who the co-pilot was. The short of it is, he had his girlfriend, I think wife now, or at least last I checked, send him a phallic object in the mail. And his whole thing was, remember at that time, we were going through Navy customs when we checked out of Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was always like, who could find the most outrageous thing and put it in these dudes' bags?
Because they dumped all your shit out.
Correct. They
Mhm.
would
Yeah.
go through and handpick through everything.
Yep.
So it was, not only are we going to embarrass the person that the bag this ends up in, we're also going to embarrass whomever the petty officer is that has to open this shit up. So we had fucked with each other so hard this entire trip that he had told somebody that he put it in Doug's bag. or Doug went, or maybe we were like, oh, we're not going to tell Doug. And Doug went through and repacked his shit and found it. I think it was in his Earps gear or something. And so then Doug, because when you get through customs, it's like, all right, who's going to be the first one to go through customs? Because everybody knew that somebody had some shit, somebody played a prank, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I went through first. I was like, fuck it. It's probably me. I don't care. Let's just get it over with. And I go through and I don't have anything. And I imagine it's probably like the contestants on Maury, when they're like, you are not the father. And they're like, oh, thank God, like, thank you. I feel like I don't know. That's how I felt. I was like, oh, thank God, not me. Right. And then it becomes the waiting game of who is it? And so after me comes Doug, and everybody's like, oh, this is going to be good. Look at this. Doug doesn't have it in his. And so everybody's like, fuck, who's got it? Right. Well, co-pilot's the last one to come through of everyone. I think we outprocessed like 3 or 4 crews. He's literally the last one. There's like 2 or 3 other people getting checked. Got you at a table, big double doors. Everybody's opened up. It's into the passenger bay. And you see this Navy Chief Petty Officer like digging through, and he just stops. And he goes like, are you fucking kidding me? Look,
Uh-huh.
And he goes, hey, Senior Chief, what do we do with this? And he pulls the fucking thing out like the Statue of Liberty, shakes the fucking thing around, right? This great big fucking veiny bastard. And the guy just remembered the co-pilot turning and looking at us like, you sons of bitches, like you all fucking set me up. And it's like, dickhead, like you're the one that sent the shit over here to prank someone else. You got pranked yourself, like it's on you.
Ultimate
But
backfire.
that was, full circle. That's how my first gunship trip went. And it kind of just went from there. And it was, I don't know, we always had a lot of fun. Like, minus the seriousness of the situations, but we always found the times to laugh and have fun.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good point to make. And nobody's brought it up yet. So, on any of the shows, one of the things that made our life unique deployed was Big Blue, for instance. And for anybody listening, Big Blue is the rest of the Air Force, not the
nonners.
AFSOC side of the house.
Yeah. The ramps.
So they would deploy and they would only work 5 days a week. They'd get 2 days off somewhere during the week to do whatever the hell they want, to go to the movie theater, go to the pool,
yeah,
sleep in, do whatever the hell they want, have no responsibility. Whereas we were on from the minute your boots touched the ground until the minute your boots left the ground out of country. So our ability to break that level of tension, like we needed something. And for the most part, it was non-destructive fun. Sometimes it was destructive, but most of the time it was non-destructive fun. I mean, that guy and his pecker is just fine. So, I mean, it was non-destructive.
Yeah, he's fine. Side note, he later did have epilepsy, and I hope that situation was not the cause of it. But
Has he had any kids yet?
I don't know. I would have to look him up somewhere, see if he has. Fucking funny, dude.
Let us kind of then transition into, on the wrap up here, of back to kind of a serious answer, that what does the gunship legacy mean to you guys? Like, what do you hope that others take away from your experience, that somebody else can learn from you, and how you feel about gunships this far removed from your career? And either of you can go first. Jimmy,
yeah, while you're there, a lot of it sucks. Whether it's waiting in line at the fucking taint of the Air Force LUD for the fucking umpteenth time, waiting, dragging your bags in fucking 116-degree heat. And, you've been through there 50 fucking times and they haven't, oh, it's a different process this time. Well, you're still waiting out in the sun 4 fucking hours. I mean, a lot of it sucks, but there's very few groups of people that have done or is doing the things that we did. And so, I mean, I enjoyed it. That's the only thing is, yeah, there's the serious side of it, right, for the shit that we did, but, there's definitely the fun side of it too. But just enjoy it while you're in, a lot of it sucks and it goes I mean, everybody says the same shit. I mean, people I'm sure people told you guys when you first got there, the old guy on his way out the door, like, "It goes fast," this and that, and now, we're out, and I say the same shit, like, it went pretty fast looking
Mhm.
back on it, but so
Okay.
enjoy it while you're in and get as much out of it as you can.
Yeah, that's a pretty deep question. I would say, not to get political or anything, I think I had a different perspective of, what gunships meant to me before like we pulled out of Afghanistan. I still have a lot of residual anger about how that went down, just primarily because of, kind of Iraq too. Like the amount of time and effort and sweat and everything else that we put into both of those theaters, and for it to end the way that it did sours it a little bit for me, I guess. I didn't come to this realization until later in my career, but I think when I look back on my time in gunships, I always kind of felt like a lot of, I don't want to say people were afraid, but people didn't want to speak up and speak their mind. And I was never really afraid to do that. It didn't really matter who the individual was that I was addressing. I always tried to be tactful. I wasn't always successful, especially early in my career. I was really unsuccessful. But guys like Jetty and Rick DeMorgan and Megan Ripple and Floyd Manley, those kind of guys that pulled me aside, and then dudes that I was friends with, like Chris Daly, Pierre Esconder, like those guys that were allowed me to vent and be me, but also being like, hey, dude, quit being a bitch, like figure your shit out. But yeah, I think it's one of those like see one, teach one kind of things, right? Like if if the only at the end of the day, like no one's going to remember that I was a sensor operator. Most people, like unless you work with me, like you could walk through the halls of the squadron right now and nobody's going to be like, oh, Eddie Robinson, I know that name. I've been gone for so
Mhm.
long. But they may know the name of the people that I mentored, guide, groomed, directed, whatever, and hopefully had a positive impact in their career where, I was the dude that would go and kind of get shit on. And a lot of times, especially towards the end stages of my career, it was to protect the dudes that were underneath me so they didn't have to do it. And
Mhm.
so I hope my legacy in gunships is that, I would protect the dudes and be the voice of the voiceless and all that. But also, you know, they also got to see both good and bad ways to handle situations because I was the fucking whole package on that. And they were able, or they are able now to apply it to their careers and the way that they treat their people. As far as like holistically, gunships holistically, I think this is corny as fuck, but I'm going to say it. But when I first got to gunships and I saw the H models sticking across the hall and everything, or across the tarmac at the time
Mhm.
at Hurlburt, I'm a big history buff, and so I really enjoy um, I really enjoy reading about it and everything else. And so for me, it was it was just surreal to look across and be like, hey, those aircraft over there flew in the Vietnam War. I always thought that was so fucking cool. And then to be on the next lineage of that with the U model, and then after that the J model, I don't feel like I ever took it for granted, like what we would do, but I also knew there was going to be a lot of stories that were never told. There was going to be a lot of missions that were never talked about. But yeah, just holistically, like to be a part of something that's so much greater. You look back at the statistics of gunships in Vietnam and like the amount of missions that they were part of, the dudes that they saved, the things that they destroyed. Like our chapter in the GWOT stack saga has, I don't think, been written. But you got guys like what's the man? I got his face. The chief, Bill
Walter?
Turner,
Oh, Turner?
Walter. Yeah, Walter, the
Walter's
historian.
the chief up at the AFSOC HQ that's written, um
Some books on.
he's
Yeah,
written the Vietnam era, and I believe he's working on, like,
he's
95
collecting the
through
stories of the
yeah.
yeah. So I think that's going to be one of those things, like when that comes out, to sit back and look at it. And it's one of those, like asking somebody when they win a Super Bowl, what does it mean to you to have done this? And it hasn't set in yet. Like,
Hmm.
even though I've been out of it for 6 years, I don't know that, however long, 7 years, I don't know that it'll really resonate until you sit back and, like, my kids are grown and now I got the grandkids, and, these stories are starting to be told, and, books are starting to be written and everything else. You'd be like, oh yeah, well, that did happen. Or, yeah, I was there or whatever. But yeah, so I think it's just being a, 1/13th of a mission, and, making sure that your 1/13th was adequate to bring dudes home, and whether it was the crew or the guys on the ground, and just being able to do that, I think, that's what I'll always be proud of, or think of when I think of, like, the gunship legacy.
Okay.
That was beautiful.
That was beautiful.
And I didn't have to write it down like Wolf did.
He really was excited about that
Yeah.
to lay it down on his thoughts
Yeah, man. No,
rather
good for
than,
him, dude.
doing it live and riffing on it. But I really appreciate you guys and your wisdom. Um, having having been out of the game now for on my side of the house for 13 years, going on 13 years. I think we ought to have this interview again, have another get together at some point when you guys hit that decade out of the game answer, because I do think that you're right that there's certain life events and certain amount of time passes, and then you start looking back on it and going, what did it mean to me, or what does it mean to me today? And it's slightly different than when you're fresh out of the game.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your insight and your camaraderie and your all your words that you've been able to give us today, and the fact that you made it really easy on me. I mean, I feel like you don't like me because you made it super easy. So, um,
What are you talking about?
on being to interview you today, you guys, I was
Oh,
expecting rowdy. I was all pumped up, did some pull ups and did some push ups to get me all amped up to get ready to play referee today, and you guys were
and
fantastic.
I love it,
see,
Eddie.
here's the thing, right? Like, and I think Jimmy's like this too. You're gonna get what you give.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I feel, I don't know, Jimmy, tell me if you feel this way. I feel misrepresented sometimes, misunderstood. And I wasn't always angry. There were things that pissed me off, and I probably took it too far. But, I'm gonna blame PTSD and stress on that one, like, because I mean, now that I'm not in it, dude, I'm a fucking joy.
Hmm.
I'm a ray of sunshine. But no, I think, I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I'm misunderstood. This is
Well, I
bullshit.
hope
I
then
take
this
offense to that.
Story of your life.
misunderstood. Well, I hope that this show has been able to give you, maybe correct some of those footnotes in history on who is Eddie Robinson. He isn't the asshole that everyone thought he was.
I mean, I am. It's just a different version of it. It is what it is.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'll never be a Jimmy Christensen. Don't get me wrong. But also what-
Dangerfield.
yeah. Oh my God.
Well, guys, I really appreciate y'all taking the time out of your day, Eddie taking time off to even participate. Um, I really appreciate it. And hearing all these stories brings back lots of memories, but also now I get to hear new stories that I haven't heard before. So I really appreciate it. You guys have anything as parting shots, saved rounds, going once?
I'll just say, I owe a lot. I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to say, I owe a lot to really three people that kind of sat me down. Chris Jetty being one of them. When he was the SEL at the fort, he was like the first. I don't want to call it a sanity check because that's not right. I would say a hip check into the board of, like, hey, dude, you're fucking. And he vector checked me at that time when I was probably one of the most hard headed, stubborn dudes that was in the unit. I like, I don't even think that's an exaggeration. And then when I finally got over to the 19th, Rick DeMorgan, rest his soul, and Floyd Manley. I had been snake bit for 9 years. I made my bed, and I own that. My mouth got me into some trouble. But those guys, along with Chris Tharp, was the commander at the time. Those three dudes, that leadership team over there at the 19th took care of me, and that's the only reason I retired as a master sergeant. Honest to God. And Chris will be humble about it, and he'll tell you, "Oh, Eddie put the work in and whatever." It's bullshit. Like, Chris ran interference. Floyd and Rick really helped and pointed me in the right direction and vectored me in the right direction. And, so without those influences, I don't think that I'd probably be where I am right now.
Mhm.
But I think them allowing me, telling me, "Hey, this is what I need you to do. This is how I need you to act." And then kind of following through and saying, "Hey, this is kind of the expectation moving forward." I would be remiss if I didn't tell them publicly, "Thank you." And Rick will hear it. He's
Mhm.
upstairs with the man, but yeah, man, yeah, just thank you to those dudes. And Jetty probably doesn't know that. And I've never talked to him about it. And he may not remember the conversation, but the short story to it is we had a change of command. And there was a DO, and I respect the dude to hell. And he'll, if he listens to this, he'll know exactly who the fuck he is. He pulled me in, and he was just basically because I called him out in front of everybody. I told him that his policy was bullshit. He wasn't thinking it through. No, in those words, I was like, "Hey man, this is fucking bullshit. What are you thinking?" And so he pulls me in. It's when Nate Green had taken over as the commander. Really good dude too. But in the course of speaking in front of everyone, there was a lot of people that were like, "Yeah, dude, Eddie's right." And I may have been. I think I saw the error of my ways at that point. But anyways, Jetty pulls me in. And he's like, "Hey, dude," and his boss, "Hey, man," pulls me in. He's like, I don't, I don't think you really understand how much of an influence that you have." I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm a fucking tech sergeant. Nobody listens to me." And he goes, "No." He's like, "I'm the senior master sergeant of the unit. I'm supposed to back these dudes up." And everything you just said, I was like, "Yeah, this is fucking stupid. Why are we doing this?" He goes, "I can't do that." He's like, "So just do me a favor. If you don't understand something, and you're probably right, just come talk to me about it. Don't do that public shit anymore." And he was really the first one where I was like, "All right, Jay, not a problem." And from that point forward, I stopped. For the most part, I stopped the public critiquing, humiliation, or whatever you want to call it. And that I've carried that with me to now. Because dude, you should hear the shit that I don't say. Yeah, grow up. Gunship legacy. Hashtag.
There it is.
Shout out to Jetty. Shout out to Rick. Shout out to Floyd.
I'm sure that
and T Hart
will all appreciate it.
Yeah.
And Jetty will remember.
We'll see.
We'll see. You'll have to let us know if you get a text from him after the show comes out. And Jimmy, any parting shots, saved rounds?
Probably just thanks to Chief Turner and Chief Smith, because I was talking to them when I was weapons, talking to them on the planes about cross training and everything. And then when I did show up to the 19th, I was actually slated for H models. So I quickly hit them up and I was like, "Hey, they got me in an H model class. All my experience is on the U models." And the next day I walked in and I was swapped over to a U model class. And Hatch, I don't know if Hatch, Hatch. he was the poor sucker that went from U's to H. So sorry about that.
He ended up coming back. It's all right.
So yeah.
Good deal. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And we'll be recording our next episode with Chris Tharp and J-Lo. So stay tuned for next episode.
Yeah. Spin it up. Eyes on. circle in the black. I'm the quiet star. You ride straight line, I draw halos wide. You drop and you're gone, I stay on your